Hey, we are live. This is They Talk Funny. My special guest is, of course, Pete Zedlacher. Hello, Mr. Zedlacher. How are you doing?
Hi, Paul. I was digging the tunes off the top. Let's just play that for the
That's
rest of the show. That was
that
fun.
is actual royalty-free music.
Oh, is that right? Good, good on
Yeah,
you.
somebody get paid for it once, and I get to play it forever. That's beautiful.
Is that how it works? Like musicians, like they put a piece of music together and they're like, I can't do anything with this. I might as well give it to royalty-free music. Is it a way to promote themselves? Is it
Well,
what's
I
the idea
think
behind it?
I believe most royalty free is they'll sell a piece of music
Oh,
to it to them, and they get a little bit of money, and then that royalty free site will flog it for a while, uh, and try to earn the money from that. So they get like paid pennies on the dollar,
okay.
and then the royalty free people try to use it over and over and over again.
Right.
And I think a lot of it is stuff that's like something but just a
Well,
little off.
it sounded like play that funky music, white boy, but it wasn't. It was like maybe an octave different or something. It was just
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was it's a
slightly different
sound
chord
alike.
progression. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a sound alike.
sound
It's
alike.
it's
Yeah.
I guess celebrity looks alike are like more or less royalty free stars.
Yes, Skeet Ulrich is to Johnny Depp what royalty-free music is to play that funky music, white boy. There you
There
go.
we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome everybody who's tuning in. This is They Talk Funny. If you want to just drop a note in the comments, say where you're watching from, or say hi to Pete, or if you got a question for Pete, just I like how often we've met like what 20 times
I
maybe,
was
and
going to
it's
say
just like
a
yeah.
few dozen times. Yes.
Yeah, so it's Pete. Yeah, Pete. Everyone knows Pete. You're on. Well, everybody thinks they know you. Do you ever encounter that? Like people have seen you on like the debaters or your Comedy Now special, or seen you on stage, and then all of a sudden they think kind of like you're their best friend.
Yeah, well, especially with social media now, and I bump into this as well too. Like you see somebody that you know only from social media, and then they come up and start talking like you've been friends for 15 years, and my brain is just going, "Who is this person? I don't know who you are," kind of thing. Um, but that's a compliment, Like it's I've got one of those faces and personalities that people think like, "Oh, he's a buddy of mine." That's great. I
That you
We should be all that lucky to be that approachable.
Yeah, that is definitely. And since you mentioned social medias, I decided to put up on Twitter and Instagram. You are Zedlacker, which is your
Yeah,
last name.
it was
Uh,
available.
it was
It
available.
was available.
So
Yeah.
uh, now you've checked this out. How many Zedlackers are there
Uh,
in Canada? Like,
in
didn't you?
Well, me and my mom. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah. Um, uh, 2 summers ago, we went on a road trip and visited my uncle in Aspen, Colorado, and so my girlfriend got to sit there with four Zedlackers at once. It was the most
Ooh.
Zedlackers she's ever seen. There's quite a few of them over in Austria. Some of them I'm related to, some aren't, oddly enough. One is a former Olympian. One runs a law firm, like successful Zedlackers out there in the world.
Well,
I'm
you're
the
one of
cl-
them.
I'm the clown that makes fart noises.
That's I think that's a little disrespectful to what you are to the occupation fool, just to give it
Yeah,
George Carlin's name.
of
Uh,
course.
there is
Self-deprecating humor is always the best. Like I remember Letterman for years would do an interview and then he would say like, "Explain it to me because I'm a dumb guy." And Letterman was like one of the smartest human beings that has ever been on television. Like really sharp, really articulate, well-rounded, educated, smart. But he would always play the dumb guy. I'm a dumb guy, and that was always endearing because nobody likes the smart guy. Nobody likes Donald Trump saying that I've got the best words. It's self-deprecating humor is always the best way to go.
Oh, I'm glad I waited to take that drink. That almost came up my nose.
Oh, good, good,
Uh,
good. We're on fire tonight.
We're on fire. Okay, for those of you tuning in who may have not tuned in before, They Talk Funny. I get a chance to talk to very hilarious people, such as Pete Zedlacher, and we're going to talk about the craft of comedy, comedy writing, and also what the past year has meant, because this show has sort of been born out of that. So Pete, how would you describe your comedy, or do you want me to give a shot? Or
Oh my God, please. Yeah, you tell me what my comedy is and I'll agree with
I'm
you.
not going to say what it's from observation. I say a lot of your comedy, there's storytelling, but there's also a lot of rich actouts,
Yeah.
which I think, like, normally I can, if I see a comic, I can kind of space where they come from. I always viewed you as a comic first, but then like reading your bio and getting to know you a bit was yeah, okay, but the guy went to like acting school, performance. He's got, and that dropped things in my head a bit better, saying, oh, that's why he does those really good act outs. He's looking at it like from a different angle so he can paint the picture better for the audience. But
That's great, man. Oh my God. Just type that up and put that on my bio if you could. That's perfect. I do think that my comedy has is kind of fueled from my theater background. That's for sure. Like I remember the first time. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just gonna interrupt. I think your performance is fueled from your theater background, but like I've been watching Look Back Laughs, which is
Great.
your new YouTube show, and Lynn Alex is dropping in with some applause. Thank you, Lynn. The I think though you described how you fell in love with stand up, like late night stand up, like John Byrne, A&E's comedy at the Improv, seeing Just for Laughs, of course, being a Canadian boy, and how you fell in love with Norm Macdonald before you realized he was Canadian. All these stories that people can watch on your YouTube channel for the Look Back Laughs, which are great anecdotes where you are talking about where you discovered your love of comedy and who influenced you as a comedian. But a lot of that was formative. That was before you went to acting school.
That's right. Yeah. So just growing up in a very small town, I wasn't exposed to theater. I wasn't exposed to, there was definitely no comedy club, that's for sure, in Wawa, Ontario.
Shout
So
out
the
for
first
Wawa.
time, shout out to Wawa. Yeah, like the first time I saw stand-up comedy was in New York City. Like I went to Dangerfields and was just like bowled over, like this is amazing. And then, went to stand-up New York and saw Jon Stewart perform one night. But it was never one of those moments where I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do now. Like, I was always pursuing the craft of acting. And then when I ended up in Toronto, I ended up taking a class with a guy who had signed up for Yuck Yucks amateur night. So, I went down to cheer him on and then seeing the amateur comics. And I was like, I'm definitely signing up for this. I can do this.
Do you want to name drop who that person was, or did they
his
stay?
name. No, they never
Okay.
got it. Never made it beyond that amateur night. I think that was it. They one and done. There should be more one and dones when it comes to amateur comedy. And then from there, I signed up and then immediately realized that stand up is your own one man show. Like you're the producer, you're the director, you're the writer, you're the performer, like all in one. And it's a black box theater. You can create whatever you want up there. So I think having that tool in my arsenal was exciting for me. And then I got good at it. And then I got paid in beer. And then of course I'm going to keep doing this. This is amazing.
Canadian priorities, definitely. There's but yeah, it definitely sounds like that. But you had that passion for comedy. You enjoyed comedy because you weren't exposed to theater, but getting the tool set you learned in theater sort of really helped drive it home for you and give you caught on a lot quicker than say the other people at amateur night.
That's
'Cause
great.
you had the
Yeah,
tool set.
I believe so too. Yeah, I think I had been on stage off Broadway. I had done 6 plays at that point. Like I had stage legs already before I even hit the stage for the first time. Then there's things you have to learn, like mic technique and how to write a joke and how to what's a setup, what's a premise, what's a punchline, what's a tagline, what's a callback. There's a million things that I had to learn in that first year, and that was challenging too, and it was exciting. And it's still exciting. Here we are, like 25 years later. I still get charged up about a new bit that I'm so excited to try out. Like, is this going to be on my next gala Just for Laughs? Is this one going to make my album? Like, it's exciting.
I see more people are tuning in. Welcome. This is They Talk Funny. My guest today is Pete Zedlacher. Just drop your name into the comments. Say where you're watching from. Say hi to Pete. If you have any questions for Pete himself, please drop those in the comments. We can bring them on up. Pete, you do want to keep your shirt on, right? That's
Yeah,
no one.
shirts on.
Okay, so
Nobody
shirts
needs
on
that.
only. So
No.
no one requests that he takes his
Yeah.
shirt off. I've only
Yeah,
ever
I haven't seen sunshine in like 4 months now either. So it might just blind the viewer.
I'm still kind of shocked. I've got like the white bookcase, and you've got the white wall behind you, but it's the black shirts. I had to take my glasses off, so people wouldn't be too confused. You're the thin one. I'm the paler one. This
You're
is
pinker. You're pinker right now. On my screen, you're pinker.
that's I think that's because I've been talking so much. I forgot to inhale. It's just a little oxygen starvation. So all right, we briefly kind of covered your background, as in that you like stand up as a kid. You went to theater school, and then you went to New York, and then you came back to Canada, and while
Got
in an
paid in
acting
beer
program.
tickets, and then
Yeah.
that was the start of it all. Yeah. Moved up the ranks very quickly. And it sounds. I hope it doesn't sound arrogant to say this, but after about a year, I was working professionally as a comedian. Like I had the weekend spots and being sent out on the road, and I had a meeting with Mark Breslin, and Mark Breslin said to me, "Well, we can't bring you on as a headliner." I said, "That's okay. You'll be headlining me within 6 months." And he was like, "What?" Like he loved that cockiness. And sure enough, within 3 months, I got my first headlining run, and moved up very quickly. Rocked the boat a little bit. There was a lot of old school guys that were like, "Who the hell is this kid coming in here? Hasn't paid his dues." And
There's a lot of do your time before you
yeah,
get.
yeah. And then they would see me and they'd like, he's a good kid, and worked my way up the ranks quick.
And you were always likable too, and that's kind of key. That's a lot of things, because Canadian comics, we spend a lot of time in cars with each other.
Yeah.
And if you're an annoying guy in a car, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're gonna get less gigs because of it.
And then the opposite flip side of that, there's the guys that are hilarious in the car, and then you get on stage and you're like, well, what happened to the funny guy in the car?
Yeah, there's that too. There's that too. Sometimes though, some guys get on the gig just because they have the car.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's
Elizabeth Seward is watching. Thank you, Elizabeth.
hello.
We got people tuning in.
Great.
Yeah, we're using StreamYard. I know you're used to using OBS and Zoom.
Maybe you're talking technical stuff that I'm not 100% caught up on. I got like a producer who does my my look back laughs, and I'm lucky enough
which
that
you
I'm
farmed out to Asia, by the way. I'd like to
That's
point
right.
out. I mean, it's a white guy, but he's living in Korea,
I'm stealing
like
that
South
joke.
Korea.
That's brilliant. Absolutely, it's absolutely true. He's a Canadian guy that ended up in Korea and has a lovely life over there. And he came up with the idea of like look back laughs, where we look back on the career of somebody. And he's the producer, so he does all the heavy lifting, when it comes to all the technical stuff. But yeah, you're right. I farmed it out to Asia. That's great.
Remind me of his name again, because he's also a talented anime. Scott, last name?
McFarlane.
Scott McFarlane. He also does an animated series as well.
He's got a few little projects going on YouTube and podcasts, and a lot to do with like life over in Korea. So yeah, he's doing great.
Elizabeth is just reminding me that she's my cousin. So
okay. Hello.
Elizabeth, by the way, this is Pete Zedlacher, or over there is Pete Zedlacher, incredible, hilarious comedian. If you're watching CBC, you may have seen him on The Debaters or listening to his voice on The Debaters. The Ron James show as well, which you also wrote for.
Oh, if there was one show that I wish ran for 25 seasons, it was the Ron James show. It was so much fun to write on and to perform on. It was like half the show was Ron doing stand-up and half the show was sketch comedy and animated shorts. And we got 5 seasons out of it on CBC. And then Ron, of course, did his New Year's Eve special every year. So I miss that show. It was so much fun. And Ron is definitely one of those guys that I learned the craft of comedy watching. So
he's another person. Like for me, watching Ron, it's immediate to pull him from like a theater background. I go, okay, that's an actor who's
Yeah.
doing comedy, and he gets the craft. He's great at the craft, but he's still, it's the actor part still shows through. Whereas you, like, for me, it was the stand up background. We're getting off topic though a little.
Are
Well, I
we?
mean, we're still on
What was the
comedy. Well,
topic? What's the topic?
it's comedy. We're still talking comedy, but
Yeah.
I want to talk about you, and how you viewed you. You had a great statement where you said that you viewed it as being like your own one man show, where you were doing everything. You were producing, writing, performing, and then it was just learning the mic technique, and solidifying your idea of joke structure. Uh, how do you describe your joke writing style? Like, what do you every day sit down at a keyboard or use a microphone, or is it you wait for inspiration?
Again, going back to the Ron James show, and I'm not getting off topic. I'm staying on topic. But with Ron, we would sit in a room. There'd be like, three writers, and then Ron would join us. And then we would just riff. We would riff on topics. We'd come up with a different theme for each show. So one show would be called Travel, and we'd pitch ideas and write them all down. And then you'd literally sit in an office, 8, 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, churning out stand up and then pitching to the room. Somebody would have a tag, somebody would put it in there, something would get cut, but I like this idea. Let's work that back in there. And by the end of the season, I remember looking at it going like, we wrote like 8 hours of stand-up comedy. Like, that's phenomenal. Like, that's like a very prolific stand-up comedian will write an hour a year.
That's Louis C.K. Like, Louis C.K. was famous for the fact that every year he'd come out with a new hour-long special.
Is that what he's famous for?
Well, no, sorry, that's not exactly what he's famous for now. But that, sorry, at his height, his claim to fame was the fact that he was having a new hour every year, and he's writing Louis, like the show.
But all those guys over in Europe, like, that's what they do. Like, they write and perform a brand new hour every year for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. And, they're all millionaires from doing that, the theater tours that they do. And, they're not household names over here, but they pack in 4,000 seaters every night at the Edinburgh Festival, and they write an hour a year. Like, it's not uncommon to think of it. So, I wish I had a little more of that work ethic that I had when I had on the Ron James show, of like being able to lock yourself in an office for 8 hours a day and just riff ideas. But my brain doesn't work that way, or maybe it's just, the way that I like to write is to just find inspiration and then jot it into my notes and then kind of jot it out afterwards.
So what form does your inspiration normally take? Is it like a turn of phrase will catch you, or something visual will catch you, or is it like more of an emotional thing that you go, oh, that frustrated me, or I really loved that, or I hated this, I got to make a joke about it? What is it? Is it consistent, or is it non-consistent?
I think it's non-consistent. I think it's all across the board. I think I've been inspired by a turn of phrase. I think I've been inspired by something that's made me angry. I think something that's really made me laugh has inspired me. Something that again, like, just something funny happens in my life that'll inspire a story that'll turn into a chunk of comedy. But it's across the board, and that's another way that I look at my stand-up, is that I don't want to be that comedian that's the storytelling comedian, or the political comedian, or the guy that just does impressions, or the guy that does sound effects. Like, I want to be all of those things. Like, I don't want to.
No offense to Michael Winslow. Okay,
no, not at all. He's brilliant, and one of my first favorite comedians for sure. But I think I love comedy like Patton Oswalt. Like, Patton will do like a really hard hitting political skewer on somebody, but then do a 10-minute chunk on hot dogs afterwards. And then do an impression, and that's the kind of comedy I love. You're just gonna, whatever makes me laugh is gonna be brought to the stage, and only something that makes me laugh is gonna be brought to the stage.
That's one of the basic tenets, comedians need to learn. You don't write the stuff that you think will make people laugh. You write the stuff that makes you laugh.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've seen that a lot in amateur comedy, like comics that think that, doing jokes about, dating, this, whatever the hacky kind of premise is.
Yeah.
But then you talk to them in real life, and they don't have any kind of, that's not their shtick at all. Like, that's not their, and then I tell them, like, that's more interesting than what you're doing on stage. Like, that's focus on the thing that makes you laugh. Don't try to project what you think an audience is going to laugh at.
So if I was to ask you what makes you laugh, you're going to just say, watch my set. Is that what you're about to say?
Well, that's very arrogant of me to say that, but it's, if I write a joke and it makes me laugh and it's not quite finding its feet on stage, I'll work that joke to death because it makes me laugh. And I know that an audience will eventually laugh at that. But yeah, you have to enjoy your own stand-up. You have to enjoy telling this story. Like, that's I think key for comedy. Yeah.
I mean, I call it emotive context. Like, people might not follow every beat of the situation you're describing or you're in, but they can always identify with the emotions you're feeling at the time.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Very, very good. Another great lesson I learned early on in comedy was from Kenny Robinson, who said, don't write about things that you hate. Don't write about things about that you love. Write about things that you're passionate about. Now, I thought that was so perfect, and it's stuck with me for 25 years. Like, things that you're passionate about. That's exactly what things might make you mad, but you're not passionate about it. So don't go down that road. I thought passion was such a great turn of phrase to inspire comedy.
And Kenny's a very passionate person, and I'll take a point. If you like the idea of talking about comedy, there's two types of shows on this channel where we get to talk about comedy. We also talk about, just, it's sort of like a pandemic check-in. So we can come in, air our grievances, just chat with some comedy friends. We do those Tuesday afternoons. So the Tuesday nights are these. But if you also want to check out some of the back episodes, we do have Mr. Kenny Robinson. He was episode 28.
Oh, lucky 28.
Lucky 28. So there's all kinds of back episodes to check out if you want to do that. So yeah, hit like right now and subscribe if you want to check out some of the back stuff, because that will really help out the channel. You're familiar with all those call outs.
Yeah, this is a whole new world for me. Like, I've had a YouTube channel for, I think, 13 years, it said. But it was just, I just used it as like a promo thing. Like, I would just upload like a stand-up set that from TV that, agents and management types would use for promotional. Like, we're looking to book a comedian. Well, here's the YouTube clip. You can check that out. Not realizing that, there's a whole audience that you can finagle and come in and create your own show. And that's exactly what we're both doing here with your show and what I'm doing with Look Back Laughs, and curating an audience and it's just a fun creative project as well. I don't know if you can relate to that, but it's like, here, stuck in pandemic lockdown, I'm going a little bit squirrely.
I'm about to launch a new series called I Do YouTube Wrong. So like,
okay.
I've came that close to burning down my old YouTube channel, because I was doing 3 different types of shows.
Okay.
That were very different. And I realized what it did to the algorithm, which is bad. So I've now broken it out into 3 different shows.
3 different channels.
3 different channels. So
right.
And still kept my old promo one. But yeah, I never thought about it, about utilizing it properly. And now that I've learned, you sort of jumped ahead. The pandemic has caused this squirreliness among comedians, because we're not on the road as much as we were. We're not in front of audiences as much as we are. We've been finding these new outlets. You want to describe that process for you?
March 14th, 2020, I was in the midst of our Snowed In comedy tour, which is officially Canada's biggest comedy tour. We do 65 cities across Canada from coast to coast.
You're heading out east?
Yeah, we start in the west and we go head our way east. And March 14th of last year, we got shut down here in Calgary. And we were under the guise of like, we'll shut down for a couple of weeks until we get a handle on this pandemic. And then we'll hit Manitoba and we'll start uphill. And it's been, no, of course, we've been shut down ever since. So we're very close to approaching 1 year of lockdown. It's going to be 2 years without the Snowed In comedy tour. It's looking very promising that we'll be back in 2022.
Oh,
but
you know what? I checked I was looking at the dates, and I guess the East Coast. I was looking at April. I'm thinking, oh, they were going to be going. They're going out east in April. You, Dan Quinn, Paul Meyerhog, but that was the tour dates that were
2020.
canceled.
All those dates were postponed, eventually canceled. And then we started, possibly looking at maybe 2021, we'd be back. And as we got to November, December, it was like, there's just no chance. And so now it's looking like 2022, the Snowed In Comedy Tour will be back, and we'll have a lot to say. We'll have a lot of laughs. We have a lot of material.
As soon as you remember where to put your hands on stage.
Yeah.
There's.
Yeah. How does this, which end do I speak into? That's what the mic's going to be like. And
Oh yeah, sorry. And you've also been uploading some classic bits. I just I saw today that you did the voice
those
distortion.
like prank phone calls.
Prank phone calls, yeah.
So I did a Comedy Now special, which is fast approaching 20 years ago now, which is remarkable to even say out loud. But yeah, that was kind of the special that kind of launched my career. It was I got to do all the talk shows and really put me on a national level, so that I could actually start headlining coast to coast. And it was one of those specials that blew up really big. It was like the highest rated special they had that year, and it probably had nothing to do with me, but it had more to do with September 11th, 2001. That happened, and then my special came out 3.5 weeks after September 11th. So I think people were like heartbroken and tired of the news of what's happening with September 11th. This brand new comedy show debuts, and my special beat Friends that week in the ratings. So, which isn't that crazy? But it's Canadian show business, right? So I get a call from the producer saying, "Hey, your special is #1 and you beat Friends in the ratings." I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, if this was in the States, they'd be like, "Well, let's talk about Emmy nominations. Let's get him on all the shows."
What's your series going to be? Yeah.
And then Canada was like, "Yeah, neat. Okay, see you later." And that was the end of the hoopla of being #1 in Canada. But there's been a lot of requests over the years. People like shooting me emails and making comments on my YouTube and my website saying, "Hey, where can I get a copy of that Comedy Now?" Because it's old enough that people had it on VHS. So and now they don't have a VHS player anymore. So they're like, "Where can I get a copy of that?" So we're digitizing it and making it in the proper format now, and then like syncing the audio and cleaning it up a little bit and whatever, remastering the Comedy Now and putting them up on the YouTube channel now.
Did you get the masters from Sandra Fair and Associates?
No. I don't even think they have the masters anymore. I think they've they probably dumped it into a warehouse somewhere and it's lost somewhere.
I'm gonna ask a delicate question.
Oh, please.
All right. Would you redo or remove any of the artificial laughs that were added that night?
100%. That's not a delicate question at all.
With any of the producers who were involved in that, I don't want them to be upset with me or maybe upset with you.
No, and I would say it right to them. Like that laugh track was just the death of that show. It was. I don't understand why television producers need to think that they have to hey, constantly add that to a comedy show. Like, just watch a show and we know where the laughs are supposed to be. So stop. And what happened with my Comedy Now, especially because they had added a lot of sugar, is what they call it, right? They sugar it up.
They sweeten
it up. Sweeten it up. And then they added that in the first segment. So between the title screen and then the first chunk before they go to commercial was just peppered with all this, laugh track. And then they came back and there was no laugh track. I think that the editor on that day was just like, "Yeah, this is good enough." And then it was done. Yeah. That's how they make Canadian television, man. I swear. They just churn it out and good enough, fine, get in the box, put it on air. So they would add laugh track in setups of jokes. Like I did a chunk of comedy about who's your favorite athlete. Maybe your favorite athlete is Ray Bork, and then or maybe your favorite. Like, there's no reason to put a laugh track there. Like, nobody's laughing at examples of what your favorite athlete. And it goes on to the joke being, my favorite athlete was Anna Kournikova. That's again how old that joke is. So yeah, I really don't like laugh track. I've never liked it on any kind of sitcoms or, and we worked on the Ron James show. It was a live audience always, and you know, yeah, yeah, not a fan.
To take a step back a little bit, you mentioned uh, writing, but you didn't. What kind of tools do you use? Do you do the keyboard, or do you pen and paper it still,
Um,
or do you record yourself
I got
just for the
a
more
I
natural?
got a iPhone with
Yeah,
notes, right? So
yep. It's very
I'll
popular among all the
yeah,
people I'm
is
talking
that
with.
how a lot
Yeah.
of people are doing it? So, like for example, I have well, this is a to-do list. I don't even have a chunk of comedy. There it is. So I have two
It's
work
a
on,
good
right?
thing, yeah, to
Yeah, so
work
I
on.
put two work on, and then I just jot down an idea, right?
Yeah.
Um, so for example, here's. Would you like to hear some of the notes that I have here?
All right,
Uh,
the future
okay.
Pete Zedlacker special coming
Yeah,
in.
this might be coming up on Just for Laughs in 2024. Um, Christmas cards. I'm so cynical about Christmas cards now. Reading them like, meh. There's two extremes. It's either my love for you is magnified by our love of Jesus Christ, or Merry Fartmas. So that's a premise, right? There's a premise of a joke in there of how there's two extremes of Christmas cards. There we go.
Yeah.
That's how I write. I write down an idea. Obviously, I was shopping for a Christmas card this past year, and I was like, oh, these are it's either Jesus Christmas or Fart Christmas. So I wrote that down as an idea, and then what I'll do is sometimes I'll do it. I'll take out the laptop and I'll try to punch it up with long form, but more times than not, I'll literally just go to an open mic and just say it out loud into a mic.
Do you record all the open mics that you do?
Yeah, yeah, and that's the trick too. You got to listen back to it.
Yes.
Uh,
No,
I've
there's a
recorded
lot of people who don't follow that second step. So
I've recorded so many sets and then just left there going, I'm not fucking listening to that one. That's terrible. Are we allowed to swear on your show? I just realized I swore
I
out
fucking
loud.
hope so.
Okay, good. Again, going back to Ron James, Ron can sit in an office and churn out an hour's worth of comedy and then try it out. Like he'll just go in front of like 1,000 people at one of his theater shows and then just try it in the middle. Like he'll just try a new chunk of comedy, and he's just that gifted of a comedian. Whereas I think I'm a little, I think I second guess myself a lot more. So I know that this joke is going to work, but I have to go and try it at, the dozen open mics that are around Canada, and then work on it, polish it, then bring it to,
Yeah.
bring it to a club, and then bring it to a theater show.
And
With
bookend it first with stuff will work, and then
of course, yeah. Yeah, open
I,
with something familiar, and then, well, it depends too. Like if I'm doing like a really miserable open mic, I'll literally try 10 minutes of brand new. I don't care, that's fine.
it's
I
not
don't
going to
need,
matter. I'm not listening to
not
this
gonna
one
matter.
anyway.
No, they're excited to see me enough. That's fine.
It's true. There's something that can be said when people are happy, like, oh, it's that guy. When
Yeah,
you step on stage, it
yeah.
does kind of make it a little easier.
But that's the beauty of stand-up too, is that they like an audience will give you about a minute. They're like, oh my God, I love this guy. This is great. And then if you're not funny, you might as well be an amateur comic again. Like they don't care anymore. I've seen it happen lots. I've seen, I had to follow Drew Carey at the Improv in LA one night. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be impossible. And the crowd went crazy when he went on stage. And then he was trying some material for the White House Correspondents' Dinner, in his defense, but it wasn't going well. So the first joke kind of went, nah, and the second one was, by the third joke, it was just like, all right, Drew, you gotta. And then I had no problem following afterwards because he was trying all brand new stuff. But that's the beauty of stand-up, is that, you can be Chris Rock and people are going to go crazy, but you still got to deliver the funny.
Well, you know me from Just for Laughs. So being backstage, and I saw like a huge film star who had a history of stand-up comedy go on stage, got a standing ovation for walking on stage.
Right.
Left to golf claps.
Yeah.
It was.
That might have been my first gala, and I think I know who you're referring to. Or there's probably been a dozen of these famous film stars that have tried comedy in the past that have.
Actually, this person was famous as a stand-up comic before they moved on to television, and then was doing film.
Wow, wow.
Yeah. If
Okay.
anyone cares to guess who it was, they can just
Put it in the
in
comment section.
put it
Yeah.
in the comments, and
Yeah.
we'll bring it up. If you're wrong, I don't know if we'll bring it up if you're right. There's
Well, my very first gala, Just for Laughs, it was one of those situations, and I was up first. Of course, they put the Canadian comics up in the bullet slot, and they went crazy when this performer went out to host the show, and ooh, it was like 7 or 10 minutes of just not going well comedy, and it was like, yeah, a smattering of applause as they left, and then please welcome Pete Zedlacher. So I had, first couple minutes was just warming up the crowd. So
yeah.
yeah, that was my first
Yeah.
gala. If anybody wants to Google it, you'll know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, let's burn all the bridges. Get all those bridges. Let's get the Tinder in there. Just so yeah, all right. So yeah, so you do a lot of the finish writing. Like you'll write out the concept, and then you try it at the open mic. Do you find that a lot of your ad libs will find it in at that point? At least you're doing a bit of a pre-write beforehand. Like some of the people I've talked to on the show, they'll just come up with a concept, and then they'll go on stage. Like the premise still might not be structured, and then they go on stage and do it. So do you find that the pre-write helps you?
Oh yeah, I have to know where I'm starting, and I have to know where I'm kind of going, and then how I get there is going to be the adventure. And then a lot of times what I discover too is where I'm going is not where the audience wants it to go. So then I'll throw in a tagline, and then that becomes the joke. And then I've got a whole new springboard to go, oh, well, I can pepper it this way. And I can go, so then make some notes on that and be like, well, this seems to be where this seems to be firing this way. So I'm going to try it then. And then the next show, yeah, that works way better. It's a process. It's we make it look easy because we walk up on stage and say, hey, it's just a guy talking into a microphone. That's fantastic. I always use this analogy, like basketball looks easy, but everybody's stood with a basketball underneath that net and realized, oh my God, these guys can jump up and slam dunk this. I can't do that, and stand-up looks that way too. Like, well, it's effortless kind of thing until you actually try it. It's very
the good
difficult.
ones. Yeah, the good ones are the ones. Have you ever been surprised by, like, you've talked about how the audience takes it in a different way, and you're able to tag and build on that. What is the most surprised you've been by, like, the effect or the strength of a joke? Like, you thought, oh, this is a funny joke, and then people just went like wild.
There's no better feeling than trying a brand new joke and then it ends in an applause break. I would put that up against any drug on the planet, because there is I'm addicted to that. Like I will continuously be chasing that dragon until they tell me that you're done. You got to get off the stage, old man. You can't do comedy anymore. There's audiences surprise me all the time. Like, it changes. Comedy changes. It's interesting to see what we're going to be facing when we get back to comedy post pandemic. What's the vibe out there? What's people going to be? What are they going to be? We're looking for. It's always an adventure. And that's what we discovered on my show, Look Back Laughs. Like these comedians that I worshipped as a young teenager, they would not be doing that material in 2021. It just doesn't hold up. Like, not only doesn't hold up, there would be a lot of letters. There would be a lot of, complaints. But you'd like to think that these guys would have evolved over their time. And I'm so curious to think of what these guys would have done. Like I'm just the same that music fans think of, like, what would Kurt Cobain have written, in these last 20 something years, and yeah.
Would he have done like a collaboration with Kanye West or something?
Maybe, he's an artist, he
it hurt my soul to say that a little. Yeah. Damn it, I've got Plaid in my closet screaming at me. There's what do you think about the cancel culture? And by the way, Herman's Head, I just have to say that.
Okay.
Because your look back laughs about Sam Kinison, you couldn't remember the name of the TV show. It was Herman's Head, and I remembered that show fondly.
What, Sam Kinison was on Herman's Head?
No, that was his vehicle show. So he was the little voice in the guy's head, and occasionally
Oh,
a little Sam
oh,
Kinison would appear.
is that right? Herman's Head. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Oh, I didn't know that.
the I believe it one of the other people in the office that the guy worked at was actually is it Yeardley Smith, the woman who does the voice of Lisa Simpson.
Lisa Simpson. Yeah. Yardley Smith. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and I've never seen that show. I've never.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was on the Sam Kinison episode. We were trying to figure out because Sam had done an appearance on Married with Children, and then
Yes.
from there, Fox was like, "Oh my God, we got to get this guy onto a TV show." And then yeah, apparently it's called Herman's Head. I didn't know that. There you go.
You know what? I should have probably double checked that, but it struck me because it was bugging me because I was watching that episode. It's Herman's Head.
Oh yeah. 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 We've had some emails coming in going like, "You got this all wrong." I'm like, okay, well, that's the beauty of this show, is just that we're talking from our own recollections. So
Yes.
yeah. Yeah.
I oh, sorry. We sort of brought up the idea of cancel culture, and Norm Macdonald,
Yeah.
you know, incredibly intelligent, incredibly funny comedian. People who got him really got him. Like, I believe Lauren Michael got him, but the NBC execs did not.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And now, do you think he's
I'm
evolved
laughing
to
thinking
match the
about
time?
some of his jokes that got him fired.
Yeah.
They're funny, man. Like he's a funny comedian. Like it was, Letterman said it, like he's the best of the next generation, and I don't disagree. Like Norm is on a level above everybody that was coming up at that time, but yeah, he got canned from SNL because he just would not relent on O.J. Simpson, and rightly so. Like and by the way, O.J. Simpson has his vaccination right now. Like O.J. Simpson's been vaccinated from COVID-19, and my mom has not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the world is not right.
Yeah, exactly. I can't leave my house at this point. And I want to thank whoever just dropped that like in there. Please, doing that kind of helps support the algorithm and grow the show. Now, do you think Norm has he evolved to sort of be avoiding cancel culture, or you think he's just evolved with society, or do you think he's not quite? Because I know that he still pisses off some people.
Sure. What I always say about when people bring up cancel culture, it's on both sides of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
So there's no left or right or liberal or conservative, or it's across the board. People are outraged. They're just sitting there with their thumb on the button, waiting to be outraged at something. But as far as stand-up goes, you can say anything you want as long as it's funny, but that's the trick. It has to be funny. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can say controversial things, but at the end of it, if it gets a huge laugh and like, oh, I see where that's, amazing. That's an amazing chunk of comedy. But if you're going up there and then you're pressing buttons and it's not getting a laugh, well, that's what cancel culture is there for,
Because cancel, there's always been people writing letters. There always has been.
Always.
It's just now people seem to be worried about it, and like when you said both spectrums, something just kind of clicked in my head. I don't know how nerdy you are. Did you watch The Mandalorian?
Of course. Oh my God. I watched every episode twice. So yeah.
All right.
Fire away if you've got any trivia.
Well, no, this is because I also do a nerd comedy show online. And so I watch a lot of YouTube videos about the breakdown of what Disney is doing. And like when Gina Carano, like Cara Dune's character, got canceled, she's been removed because she equated being a Trumpite to being like a Jew in Germany in 1930. Which is and sort of doubled down on top of that. That was actually her apology.
Yeah.
And then she doubled down on top of that.
Yeah. Pick your battles. You know what I mean? Like what are you going to gain out of saying that, for one? Do you think you change anybody's opinion? Do you think it's going to change the worldview of what, you're just pushing buttons. And then when Disney, Mickey Mouse says, "Hey, you can't do that." Well, you know that's your boss. Like what are you going to, I'm going to tell it like it is. Well, there's a price to pay for that. That's not cancel culture. That's that's the consequences to
Consequences.
yeah.
Yeah. Speech is never free. There's always, consequences.
You can say whatever you want, but there's there's
I'm free to call you an idiot. Yeah.
yeah, I would probably agree with you. But it's one of those things. Like there's every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So if you go big and you're pushing hard on some topic that has no, you're not, again, this girl from the Mandalorian, like what did you expect to accomplish with that? Like that's, again, it's just pushing buttons for the sake of pushing buttons.
Yeah.
But by the way, she was the weakest part of that show. So more importantly, like whatever, I'm glad she's done.
Imposing physically, but not like not a great acting talent. But all right, just to drop on top of that, though, I'm now seeing a number of the video commenters. There's two different types.
Okay.
There's this one guy, Mike Zero, who's saying, "Oh, Disney Plus is losing all its subscribers because of this. They're going to fire Kathleen Kennedy over all of this." I don't think you'd noticed, like they dropped the entire Muppets back catalog. The Muppet Show back catalog is on Disney. More people are subscribing now probably than before. So
they're saying that Disney Plus will be overtaking Netflix in the next couple of years because they're just creating this amazing. It's happening. So no, Disney's doing just fine. Nobody's going to stick it to Disney. Relax.
Yeah, Disney is already pulling in almost like what took Netflix 12 years to build.
That's right.
Wow, Disney is almost at that now.
And I did the same. Like when Mandalorian came out, I'm like, well, I'm gonna get Disney Plus for sure. I want to watch the Mandalorian. Mandalorian finished up, and then I was like, well, I'm gonna cancel this because there's not, I don't want to watch a bunch of Disney shows. And then Mandalorian started up again. I'm like, well, I'll renew it. But now, like every week, there's going to be a brand new show, like with the Marvel universe coming out, like with WandaVision, and then Winter Soldier comes after that, and oh my God, the list is endless. But they are saying like every week for the rest of the year, there's going to be some. So like I'm sticking around. I'm a Disney subscriber.
Yeah, and they're adding in like a bunch of Fox movies now. They were thinking about doing like a second tier service, but no, they've decided just to include it with Disney Plus.
Okay, I'm in.
Just age restrictions on it just to prevent the kids.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, I saw that when that star came out, and I was like, I had to say that I'm an adult. It's okay. I'll watch this. Don't worry. No kids here. Don't worry about it. Let it fly, Disney.
Yeah, like you're a 5-year-old with today's technology level. Like you won't know how to. Oh yeah, no, I'm going to say it.
I know how to fix this, Dad. But again, on this Disney note and this cancel culture topic we're on. You just mentioned that the Muppet Show just got dropped onto the Disney Plus. So I watched a couple of episodes, and the one that came up was the Crystal Gale episode, and it starts with a disclaimer saying that there is some sensitive imagery that is involved in this episode, and rather than cut it out for historical purposes, we left it in there for the viewer to have a discussion. And I watched it, and it was like penguins, but they were like old time kind of minstrel shows. So it's like another one of those, But I'm so glad that they didn't cut it out because nobody's flipping out and being it's not devastating anybody. It's a good place to have a conversation of why that existed and what is different now that we wouldn't do that.
Why it's different now.
Exactly. So that's I applaud them. That's the way to do it, is you go like, listen, this sucks, but let's have a conversation about it rather than try to just, bleach everything, and scrub history that it never happened.
The best solution I ever heard about the Confederate statues is just put up another plaque talking about their crimes. Like they were criminals. They rebelled against their country.
Yeah.
And that was not a cool thing to do.
Well, one point they make on those Confederate statues is that they're statues. Like they are meant to be like, oh, look, we're under the presence of something great here. Just take all those statues and put them in a museum. And then there's like, well, this is part of our history. Then we can go and have an educated look back at, and then put all their crimes next to it. That's great. But to have like, a slave owner in the middle of your town square is bad taste, man. Like that's What are you doing?
that's not just a U.S. thing. You've been to Halifax. Outside the Westin, there was a statue to Edmund Cornwallis,
Okay, that's right.
who
Yeah.
you know the story.
Yeah. Okay.
He is the first person who's was very proud of the fact that he intentionally gave blankets used by smallpox victims
Yeah, he was
to
the
the natives.
smallpox distributor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Genocide. Yeah, he was a genocidal maniac. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So again, would that be better suited for a museum where people can go in and go like, oh, who is this guy? Oh, let's learn about him. And oh, this is, instead of having it in a public place where it's a matter of like worship almost, or reverence. They should be showing reverence to, daily looking at, the smallpox guy.
Yeah, I don't. Just a slight difference of opinion. I don't see a statue as automatically a thing about reverence. I mean, also in Halifax, there's a statue of bells and another statue of a broken cannon, both of them marking the locations where the pieces landed from the ships that exploded during the Halifax explosion. It's not not giving reverence to the explosion because that was killed 10,000 people,
Right.
but it's sort of marking that point in history.
Yeah.
And having it in a public space rather than having it into a place that's curated, I think is still kind of important. So it can be a public reminder.
Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. We're on the same page there.
Okay. All right. Let's make this difficult. Let's get your nukes up. Let's take this.
Yeah, you're right. We should get some controversy going and let's get some more viewers in here and be like, oh my God, Zedlacker and Ash are going at it live on YouTube. You got to get over there.
Oh, somebody actually dropped a heart in on us.
Nice.
I don't know if they just want us to see things peacefully, but it's all cool. So, all right. So moving forward, we're getting rid of statues or putting them in museums. Do you think, are you going to continue like the look back laughs, or using more online presence?
Yeah, absolutely.
Once we can do shows live again, do you think it's gonna?
I think so, and it might even evolve to a place where I'm doing live interviews, like in-person interviews, I guess, not live. So the show has evolved now where we're having special guests come on finally, because we wanted to get a handle on what the show was, and I thought it was a great way to look back at who inspired me in comedy. But I am also fascinated by my friends in comedy, and like, we never have these conversations of like, hey, when you were a kid, who was the comic that made you go, oh, that's the thing I want to do? So we've done a couple of episodes. They're coming up in the next couple of weeks with some very special guests coming on and telling us who their inspirations were. And it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more zing back and forth. And it's a fun show. Yeah. So looking forward to that new evolution of the show.
The look back laughs. It's obvious from the early episode formats that you are watching clips together and then you just see little segments of it. I almost called him Jacob. It's Pat. No, you and your friend in South
Scott,
Korea.
yeah, Scott. Yeah.
So Scott you and Scott talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. So the show almost started off. The idea was to literally look back on some of the comedy and then get a fresh 2020, 21 take on what we're seeing. And doing that, there's a lot of copyright law and a lot of things got shut down and like deleted and, put a hold on that. And then we found out after the first 3 or 4 episodes that the stuff that people liked were like the anecdotes that I had about, watching the kids in the hall and like, oh, this is the first sketch that I saw of them. And this is what happened. And then I got to meet Scott Thompson Letterman was a big influence. And the time that I got to go see a taping of Late Night with David Letterman, those are the things that people liked more than me watching a clip and then reacting to it. So eventually we just cut that part of the show out and just said, let's just look back on the career of somebody. And it's really finding an audience now. So, and we're not dealing with any copyright law. We don't have that royalty-free music with comedy. So
yeah, definitely. And for anyone who's it's the same thing. Zedlacker.com can take you to the YouTube channel. It's also Zedlacker. So if they search Zedlacker on YouTube, they can find that channel easily. Now, all right, this is your latest album, is Comic Con. Man, I've been doing too much geek comedy. Just I said Comic Con, not Comic
I for,
Con.
so there's a couple things right off the top. So like my name Zedlacker, I really wish I changed it when I got into like they're so complicated. I have had to explain it 1,000 times. And when I say Pete Zedlacker quick, it sounds like I'm saying pizza something. I've been called Pizza Doctor. I've been called Pizza Liquor. You know, like it's. I wish I came up with Freddie Fabulous. That's my name, and then it would have been fine. And then with Comic Kong, I had this idea of like King Kong, but on the CN Tower. That was kind of where I went.
Yeah, holding a
And
microphone, right?
holding a mic, yeah. So it's me as King Kong taking over the CN Tower and doing stand-up comedy. And then we just pitched a whole bunch of ideas, and it was like comic, like King Kong, but Comic Kong. But it sounds so much like Comic Con, like the conventions of. So I'm not good at naming things. Like
neither were your ancestors because of
right.
the Zedlacker.
It sounds great in Austrian, the Austrian dialect. Peter Zedlacker. It sounds amazing, but you get over here and it becomes this pizza liquor. So
sorry, there's been a lot of ways that my name's been mispronounced as well.
Really?
So
wow.
Oh. I don't. My first wedding. My first wedding. I could tell a story on my first wedding. By the way, for anyone watching who's thinking about getting married, never go for price point on the DJ. Never go for price point on the DJ.
Okay.
There is. Oh crap. Yes. Okay. Here, Arsenio Hall. Do you remember that show?
Of course.
Do you remember when Arnold Schwarzenegger appeared on that show?
I don't believe I did. No.
Because talking about Austrian names.
Right.
Because Arsenio was there interviewing him. He says like, "Oh, Schwarzenegger, what does that translate into?" He goes, "Oh, it's like black farmer."
Black plowman. Black plowman.
Black plowman. I think he said farmer.
Okay.
And he just said, "Be very careful here. What part of that is black?"
Yeah.
It was, it's I like young kid me staying up late watching it was okay. That's
one of my very first stand-up moments was one of my first stand-up jokes was talking about Schwarzenegger. And he kept his name, so Schwarzenegger can keep his name. Zedlacker can keep his name. Schwarzenegger translates to black plowman. I looked up Zedlacker. It translates to well-hung plowboy, which is nice to know. There's year one of comedy joke for you right there.
Yeah, it's got to be proud of Grandpa.
Exactly. Yeah, good stuff in the jeans.
Yeah, good stuff. It's in the genes. That's why you use butterflies. Don't want to ruin your heritage. Are we giving life to an old joke?
Yeah, this is it. I'm brushing it off. This is this is on the new album coming out. Yeah, you'll see it again.
What was the process for you though with Comic Kong? I know we just went through entitling it and having all these great ideas.
Yeah.
Without thinking about Comic Cons, what was the process like? How much did you tour the material? When did you think it was ready for an album?
Boy.
Or do you feel? Go ahead.
That's a good question, but Comic Kong came out. That's the predecessor to my latest album. So I'm thinking that Comic Kong came out in 2014 or something like that. And the details of that are, it was one of those, I hadn't done an album in like 6 years or 4 years. So it was the best of the last 4 years. So that was pretty easy to get to. The latest album is called Chuckles Obnoxiously. It debuted at #1 on the iTunes charts, which I'm very proud of. I knocked Bill Cosby out of the top 10, which felt really good.
Righteous. Yeah.
But who's still buying Bill Cosby albums in 2020? Like really? So that album was again the culmination of like a few years of touring, and we recorded it in Winnipeg at Rumors Comedy Club. So we did 4 nights of recording, and every night I would get off stage and go like, okay, I did this chunk, and this seemed to work good, and this. So it's kind of like an amalgam of those 4 shows, putting the best of together. and a lot got cut. A lot. It was like, let's save that chunk for the next album, kind of thing. And
There was no temptation to do a double album for that
there
release.
was, there absolutely was, yeah. And I was when I was talking to some producer friends of mine, they're like, don't bother. You save it for the next album, kind of thing. And that's a good idea. And the only reason I wanted a double album is just for the ego stroke of like, I got a double album, man.
It's also I mean, it's a good marketing play too. It's like, who else does a double album? And I'll get some extra interviews based on that. But sorry for destroying your thought process.
No, I put it out on vinyl. That was the project with this album, is actually made a physical vinyl album, and I have them in the next room. I should have grabbed one. But there was a real jolt of excitement when I finally opened up that package and I saw my physical album. Like, it was a dream come true, you know.
I wish I could be pulling out yours here, but just yeah, you know, that large size album.
Yeah, it was. It's one of those great moments, and it's there's a lot of audio files that go into those into the vinyl. So
make sure they get the 180 grain rather than the 120 grain.
Again, all this technical jargon I don't understand, but like basically,
it's just heavier.
Yeah, it's say for example, like one track on digital is whatever. I'm screwing up the numbers here, but like 1 megabyte. Then the vinyl version of that would be like 100. Like, it's 100 times. So when we were sending like the record company, like, these are the files that would go on there, we had to send it to the cloud, and then it was like individual tracks would have to get. So whenever somebody gets the album, please tell me how it sounds on your house system, because it's way better than listen to a digital version. And the feedback has been cool, because they say, yeah, you can hear all the ambiance of the club, and yeah, it's cool. Proud of it.
Sweet.
And I'll get you a copy next time I see you. I'll get you a copy for your stack there.
My stack, yes.
Yeah.
Now, talk about vinyl albums only. What is your favorite vinyl comedy album? Like, album on vinyl. We're in overtime here. We've been on air for an hour. So.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah. You have somewhere to go?
No, we got overtime now. This is we're going in overtime hours.
No sudden death.
We're getting time and a half for this now. I had a Steve Martin album, and I can't think of the title of it now.
Wild and Crazy Guy, the white suited one?
I think that might have been it. But it came with an 8x10 autographed, like a mass marketed autograph from Steve Martin. And it said "Best Fishes, Steve Martin." It was him with a rubber fish coming out of his. Yeah,
that's Wild and Crazy Guy.
Wild and Crazy Guy. Yeah, so that was one of the early vinyls that I got. But again, I came to the age where like CDs came out. So like when I first started buying and exploring comedy, like the first CD that I ever bought, as far as comedy goes, was a Just for Laughs. It was a Just for Laughs CD, and it was one of those. It was one of those moments when Just for Laughs did a recording, and then my performance is on there. So now I've come full circle. Like the first comedy album I ever bought was Just for Laughs, and then I ended up on a Just for Laughs digital one. I guess there's physical ones that you can buy from the company or whatever, but it's all streaming now, right? So it's all. Yeah. But yeah, my first kind of CD that I ever bought was a Just for Laughs. And it had Bobcat Goldthwait on it, and Bill Hicks. So again, one of those moments too, like, you know, when I was a baby comic, getting my first shot at Just for Laughs and walking onto that stage, where all of my comedy heroes had crossed at one point or another, was mind blowing.
Do you remember Tim Steve's first gala line?
No. What was it?
He walked out there, took a second, took a breath, and says, "Sorry, it's been 12 years to get here."
Yeah. There you go. Perfect.
Just let me soak it in, or something like that. It was just, for Canadian comics growing up, like that's always been the golden ring to reach for.
Exactly. Yeah. And hopefully we'll get back to Just for Laughs one day when the dust settles of this pandemic.
Yes. Yeah. I think personally, I think the online thing is you're right. It's going to be staying here. It might not be as prominent now as it is, but have you been doing many virtual open mics or
A
virtual
little bit.
shows?
A little bit. They're fun-ish. They're,
Ish.
I think the fun part is this, what we're doing right now. Like before the show and you go to do the sound check and you see all your comedy buddies on there and you're just, how's it going? What's going on? How are you doing? Um, and I think I'm getting the hang of these online shows now. Like the audience is really, excuse me, they really like it when you break the fourth wall, when you kind of like look at them and be like, what's going on in your living room? And, you kind of, that's the kind of stuff that they're really like a connection. There's a human connection. And that's what's missing from these virtual shows is that, it's great to see comedy, but it's, we're looking at a plastic sheet, we're looking at a screen that's telling us that, there's something magical that happens in a comedy club or in a theater where you're packed in there with people and you're hearing that weird guy laughing over your shoulder. And then somebody over here is heckling. And then the comedy, it's there's things that happen.
The atmosphere. Yeah.
The atmosphere is what's missing from these virtual shows. I'll keep doing them, I do love a creative outlet, but boy, do I miss those theaters. Do I ever miss the snowed in comedy tour, man?
Lynn Alex has said that she just watched the clip of the Just for Last Muppets introducing you.
Yeah.
So that was, I remember that year, and I know that was such a big highlight for you. You really sort of enjoyed it.
It was, and I love telling this story. Do we have about a minute? Can I tell a minute?
Hell, no. We if you want to take a half hour to tell a story, we'll tell a story. I'll just kind of get to these comments. My cousin Elizabeth was just saying, great deep, which I think it was, great seeing you. Oh, okay. It was just a mistype.
Okay. Great deep sounded very,
yeah, it's a great deep
what's going
thoughts.
on over there?
It's an hour and a half later in Newfoundland, so it's bedtime.
Get to bed, Elizabeth.
Yeah, get to bed. Take care of yourself. Hugs and kisses to all the family for me, will you? Okay. That's it's, you know what? I've never done comedy in Newfoundland, and I've got family all over there.
Oh, you'd love it.
I'd love to show what I do too.
Yeah, they're such beautiful, charming, funny, warm human beings. So if you get a theater packed full of them, it's just a fun night. My God.
Hey, my people.
But you better be funny. That's the thing too, because the audience is going to be funnier than you. So you better be on your toes. Yeah, I love
Trust
Newfoundland.
Me.
Yeah.
So okay, the Muppet Story. Let's hear.
So I'm a
draw
little
it out
boy.
as long as you can.
Yeah, I'm a very little boy, and I'm watching the Muppet Show, and I turned to my mom and I said, "They said Fozzie Bear is a comedian. What does that mean? He's a comedian?" And my mom said, "Well, that's his job. That's what he does for a living. He makes people laugh." And she said, I sat there for about 3 seconds and I went, yeah, I'm going to be a comedian. Like I was a very little boy, right? So Fozzie Bear was my very first comedian. So flash forward 30 years later, I'm standing in the wings at the Place des Arts at Just for Laughs, getting ready to go on to do my giant gala in front of 4,000 people. And Fozzie Bear is on right before me and he's killing and he's just murdering. And then Statler and Waldorf, they start heckling him, and then it goes back and forth. And then Fozzie leaves the stage, and then Statler and Waldorf introduce me. They say, your next comedian comes from the small town in Northern Ontario called Wawa. And that's what happens when babies name towns. And I'm walking on the stage laughing like I've heard every Wawa joke ever. But that just struck me so. I was so happy. I was like, so I think my first thing out of my mouth was like, oh my, that was the Wawa joke from Statler and Waldorf just made fun of my hometown. It was a magical night. I so wish we could have bottled that energy because we would have healed the world with the love that was flowing around that theater that night.
Oh, that was, yeah. I had the weird job of, I had to type for the Muppets Gala, I typed out the transcript. I did the subtitles for it.
Yeah.
Including the Swedish chef.
Yeah. When he made poutine.
Yeah. It poutine. Like I remember that because I had to go back over it to make sure I could get like the onomatopoeia correctly. Just
right.
Just poutine.
Poutine. Yep. Oh, Lynn Alex has given us some applause and some laughing, crying faces. Man, we're crushing it here, bud.
We are definitely crushing it. You're crushing it. You've been a fantastic guest. So people keep tuned for finding out when the Snowbound, not
The
Snowbound,
Snowed In Comedy Tour.
Snowed
Yeah.
In, Snowed In Comedy Tour returns.
snowedincomedytour.com. And yeah, you can check us out on the Facebook page, Snowed In Comedy Tour. Easy enough to find. And
And
yeah, hopefully 2022 we'll be back. Fingers
it's
crossed.
you, it's Dan Quinn,
Yeah,
it
Dan
is
Quinn
Paul
is
Meyerhog.
Paul Meyerhog, Deborah
It's Quinny's.
DiGiovanni. Yeah, it's 4 international touring headliners, and we get together and we have a brand new show every year. So everyone does half an hour of theater quality, crushing killer comedy, a 2-hour show, and yeah, people come back year after year. We've had people come back 12 years in a row. Yeah, I miss them so much. I miss the crowds. I miss my snowed in family, and so wear a mask, get your shot, and we'll get back to real life soon.
Thank you very much, Pete. I'm just going to end the broadcast. So everyone be safe. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more of these type of shows, or if you have any comedians you want to suggest that we talk to, we can definitely do that. Cheers.